Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davis and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsor, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative projects can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator, lets you get as many quotes as you want for free, to their 24-hour customer service. Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed many successful Kickstarter campaigns. A bunch of them have actually been on this show, and a bunch of my friends have been on the show, and they say some amazing things about Mixum Printing, and they are very, very happy with how it goes. And with Mixum, they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience around the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com, and right now they're running an amazing promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. And I know that 5% makes a huge difference when you're either just barely passing your goal or you fund a little bit above your goal. Every percentage point matters. So that is Mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount off on that order. And so without further ado, I have with me comic creator Braiden Cox. So welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was good meeting you at Travis's big creator get-together he had online a bit ago.
I know, I was the odd man out. You know, I was the only one who's not a comic guy. And I'm a podcaster, but obviously I was very, very excited. I'm getting 2 interviews out of that at a minimum. And we don't talk about Fortnite, though. I'm just letting you know.
That's fine.
Chuck wanted to talk about it, and I said, no, Chuck, you can't come on. And he knows why. He knows why. We are a family-friendly show here. But having said all that, and kidding aside, obviously that's Chuck Pino, and he knows that we're joking. Everybody gets all upset about it. You right now actually have a very cool Kickstarter going on. Serve Issue 1 is right now, and I know you're a little bit above halfway funded.
Yeah, so we are at 870 out of 1,500, I believe. We've actually had a pretty good first week. This is my first Kickstarter in like 5 years, and I'm actually surprised how well we're doing, just because I had been out of the game for so long for personal reasons. But I'm glad that I am doing something right.
So let's talk about that, because there's a lot going on, and for those who don't know, what is Serve? Because it's a very interesting Kickstarter, to say the least.
Sever. Just so you guys know, one of the reasons you should back this Kickstarter is because all the books are done. These are all the variant Kickstarter covers. Everything's like, so Sever is a horror romance book about friends that started a heavy metal band. It has some LGBTQ
we're going to talk about it, I promise.
Yeah, and then it has a lot of, it's inspired by heavy metal, as you can tell by this cover. This is a tribute to Holy Diver by Dio. As you can see, the character is, getting wrapped in the chain, and it's the main bad guy. And like the horror aspect, Sam Raimi is one of my biggest influences, so this is based off of The Evil Dead.
I think this is a nicer version of that cover. And we're going to talk about all this stuff.
And so the story takes place a few years after the main character, Chloe Williams, or also her stage name is Ellipsis. So before she got into heavy metal, she was like a punk rocker. And so growing up in an age of where people don't use proper grammar, she kind of used ellipsis as a coined term, because it's like using proper grammar now is a punk thing. Because of the pure irony of no one using proper grammar, like, through texting or through messaging. And so she is playing, her and her friends are in their final year of high school. and then they want to go play in their metal band after they graduate. And there's a lot of high school clique tensions. There's a lot of necromancer cults, severed hands, a lot of really fun perks and quaints to the book.
Let's dive a little bit into it because there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and I'm actually super excited. So for those who don't know, I actually reached out after I did a little reading on this, and there's a reason why I asked you. So I get solicited, and I also ask people, and I do some soliciting, and so I chose to solicit you. And so obviously Chloe Williams, sort of, as you stated, was into punk rock, and then she became into heavy metal, and obviously she's playing in a heavy metal band, and she's obviously dealing with either being bi or coming into the fact that she's a lesbian. I'm not exactly sure which, and I'm sure you're going to tell me which. And obviously she's playing with a bunch of her friends, and there's a lot of stuff going on with high school drama. So there's one of her friends is Katie Horde, and Katie is a popular girl, and she's also sort of, standoffish in school, but a metal band leader at the very end of the day when it's not the high school drama. And then also we have another friend who is Alicia Cho, who's a bassist, and she's the smartest, and she's always planning ahead, and she's sort of the planner of the group. And what makes this all very interesting is that they're performing, and Chloe has a girlfriend, Marilyn Penhurst, who mysteriously died in a car crash 3 years earlier with her parents. The body was never found. And, well, Marilyn is back.
Right. Yeah. So
what's going on is what I want to know. And
so,
where did this even
without
come
giving
from?
up too much, well, you read the book, so you kind of know what's going on. So to kind of
they don't.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't know.
Yeah.
And
so
we don't want to ruin it for them too much. We just want to give them a little taste.
So what happens is that it has to do with the necromancer cult. So Marilyn comes back, and she has this secret agenda, and her goal is that as you read the book, she's going through and finding certain people that she recognizes from the cult that, and she was held by them. I'm not going to give too much away or what happened during there, but she was held by this cult, and now she's pretty much hell-bent. After escaping, she's hell-bent on getting revenge. And she's pissed. She's
rightfully so. I mean, let's be realistic here.
And so, and as you read in the book, and that's why, the weird thing about this metal band is that they have, they have a guitarist, they have a lead singer, they have a bassist, and Ellipsis is fighting everyone on not wanting to get a drummer. Because Marilyn was part of their band, and that was her girlfriend, and so she is adamant on, I do not want another drummer ever, and, they try to explain everything, it's one of my favorite quotes, if you don't mind me reading it. I kind of got this from one of a lot of these characters are based off of my friends that were in a metal band, that I was in a metal band with them. And then so this is just one of my favorite quotes is they're arguing about the drummer, and Alicia, the level-headed one, is look, dude, we got to have a drummer. The drummer is our metronome, the atomic clock. It's the heartbeat of the band. And, that's just, it's such a powerful thing, because it's true, because the drummer is the one that keeps the beats, it keeps the rhythm. They're missing that piece to their band.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And one of the things that you mentioned is that obviously Marilyn wants revenge, and she's bringing a lot of dark energy, and she's raising up some hell, I think is a really good way to put it. There's much more graphic things I could describe. And and it's this idea, though, that she's back, but this band is also dealing with some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of moving parts. And one of the things that's very interesting about this is that obviously Chloe is dealing with Marilyn being back, Marilyn obviously has some supernatural element attached to her at this point, and now it's dealing with, okay, Marilyn's back. It's not the same Marilyn that existed when we were in a relationship. The relationship has changed, but it also hasn't changed. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and there's some relationship tension there, obviously. And then on top of that, they're all still in high school. And so what is that like really balancing all this out? Because where this is going is obviously some shit's about to go down.
Oh yeah, they're going on. They're riding the crazy train, and so like it's a lot of it is like dealing with just like the clique wars, the dealing with like wanting to be in a metal band, trying to figure out what's going on. Marilyn, who is hiding a lot of stuff from her friends that she, because like Katie and Ellipsis are like her two oldest friends. Like they're kind of like a trio that started the band, and they're all really good friends. Alicia was just brought in later on, and it's just there's going to be a lot of crazy shit happening.
And then obviously, to take a bit of an aside here, there's some interesting things going on with Katie as well, where obviously Katie is a very, very popular girl at school. Katie is obviously very, very protective of her social status, and she is very standoffish, where in school she doesn't speak with Chloe, she doesn't speak with Aisha. And I'm assuming when they were sort of in Maryland, when Maryland was around, maybe she wasn't speaking with Maryland either. And what is that like? Because that's super interesting.
So the 3 years before, they actually did hang out a lot more because they were a lot closer. I had it so that Maryland's death kind of split them apart a bit. And so that's when Katie started being like, I need to protect my social status, or else because I don't want to disappoint my very rich dad, who's, owns half of the town and is in with all the rich elite kids, and it actually stems from a lot. Like one of my friends and we had a friend like this in high school where it was we were okay to hang out with him outside of school, but inside of school he would be like. He's like, why are you talking to me? Gross. And then we ended up stop talking to him because there's one year we went to his birthday party and like, all the popular kids started showing up, and then like he totally forgot we existed, and then one of the kids were like, what are they doing here? And it turned into the whole, like, he was like, oh, I don't know. My mom just invited them to help set up or something. They should be leaving soon. So we left, and then he tried to be mad at us. It's like, dude.
So we all have friends like that where I had a friend who what mattered to him is that in high school, the second he entered high school and he was in advanced science, and we don't speak to him anymore, and for a lot of reasons. But second he entered advanced science, which meant he got to go to high school in science. He had to wake up early and take a different bus and all that stuff. What wound up happening is that it became very serious, and the friendship started dwindling, and it dwindled, and it dwindled, and it dwindled. So I know that exact path where somebody changes either socially, they change, due to school, and that's sort of Katie, but she's trying to also maintain her friendships outside, and even writing that, because that happens a lot more. And I think it's very relatable, and it's very interesting that you write that, because I think when people read that, whether you're reading it, in today's era where you're my age, I'm 28, so I'm 10 years out of high school, or you're still in high school, I think it's super relatable. And I think that it's a very interesting entity. And so what is that like to capture and really put forth, because it's timeless in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so you also get like I get to write stuff that that like as I'm capturing it in the book, I also got to add responses that I never got to, say before, because at the time I was just so mad, and like as they talk about, they have kind of like a deep conversation when they meet Katie's Uncle Joe, and like they come up and like they have the big fight, and this isn't much of a spoiler, by the way, guys, because you can read the first 7 pages for free on the Kickstarter. So, they get in a big fight, and they come through, and, her uncle's like, he's like, did you guys fake a fight again to get out of school? And she was like, yeah, you know how Dad is. He wouldn't want me hanging out with these people. He's like, why don't you just tell him to stick it, And in a way, that was so that was kind of based off of my friend's mom. Like, she would always tell him that and be like, why don't you just, why do you care so much? It's like, they're your friends, and they hang out with you, and like, they don't care about what you're into. It's like, why do you not want to hang out with them inside of school?
Yeah, and I think it's also very, very well written, and to the point where it's very relatable, as I was stating, because obviously I read the first issue. For those who want to know why we're having sort of an in-depth, vague conversation, when you're reading it, I think people can relate to Katie. Some people might even been to Katie. Obviously, I was fortunate enough with my main friends and the friends I'm still with and hang out with. We were never like that. We were all the outcasts. And now
yeah,
cool kids.
that's exactly. Yeah, I know that feeling. Like, all my friends, the friends that I'm still friends with to this day, are all of my core group of friends that nobody wanted to hang out with, and so we kind of formed our own little group, and we're all still really close. And like, the 4 characters in this, Marilyn, Ellipsis, or Chloe, Katie, and Alicia, are all like mishmash of like a lot of my friends that I'm still really close with today.
And so it's very interesting in that regard, because I relate to a bunch of these characters. And obviously we had a Katie who I'm not friends with, and he went the smart route, and his mom, a super, whatever type person who ruined him. Not to get too into that depth, but obviously it breaks a friendship, because he would hang out with us after school when he could and when he was allowed to, but not on a Friday night when we're all just hanging out watching, Rocky Horror Picture Film, of all things.
Right. Oh man, that's a good movie too.
Oh my God! If you ever show a pure non-Rocky Horror virgin fan that, so if you ever show somebody who is a Rocky Horror virgin, and I don't mean like a virgin sexually, I mean like they've never seen remotely like it, greatest response. I wish I had a film of it. His reaction. Oh man. That kid has never been the same since. I ruined somebody completely that day. And me and my other 2 friends who are twins, oh my God. And they're going to see this interview. I'm going to send this interview to them. They're going to know exactly what I'm talking about too. But it's perfect, because that other guy, the smart guy who was the Katie in our group, oh man, just it's so relatable, this book, to me. And then obviously even talking about going into Alicia Cho also, is like, the smart kid in the group and the one who's always planning ahead. That's super relatable, and I love your characters, is my point, because I actually read your book, and I just think it's really well done. And then obviously and the fact that they're in a metal band is perfect. It's just so perfect in so many ways.
Well, like, I got the idea because, like, when have you and your friends never got together and be like, oh man, we should start a band, and it's like, we tried real hard. See, that's the thing, is that you tried, and it's always one of those things you do with your tight group of friends. It's like, man, we should learn an instrument. Let's play in a band. And it's like, oh yeah, dude, let's do it.
Did you know what I just referenced? I was referencing the summer of '69. But Bryan Adams, right? Like, you gave me that one too, which is even worse.
Right. But you're welcome.
But this is what I thoroughly enjoy, is that's the other thing, and you nailed it perfectly, I feel, is that we've all tried and said, let's start a band. Let's start a YouTube show. Let's start, a wrestling company, right? It doesn't matter what you want, because legitimately you could have taken anything and you could have put wrestling over this the way it's written. You could have put a YouTube thing over it. You could have put, let's all be actors over this, because it works and it hits that nerve and it hits that sweet spot in so many ways. And it's amazing. And I think the metal thing is really perfect, though, because everybody wants to be a musician. Everybody wants to perform. Everybody wants people to go ballistic over them. And then there's always the band fights and all that stuff. And and I might make a semi-sexist thing, but it's also the drama is in this too a little bit, and it's nice to see though that it's high school girl drama, and that's also nailed nicely. Really nice.
Oh man, high school girl drama. That was our drama. No, just kidding.
So you see, as a guy, I never had that. Instead,
a lot of it, we never had a lot of it either, but I did have a lot of like my friends that were girls, like they had all sorts of stuff that I got to pick from. And like one of the fights actually is based off of one year in high school. I was just standing by the lockers and these two girls just, oh my gosh, and girls are brutal fighters, dude.
Oh my God, they are the worst.
Like nothing is held back. Like there's nails, there's hair pulling, there's punching, there's kicking, there's biting. Like it's brutal. Like you see two guys go at it and they're just like, they're ready to just knock each other out. And then when the guy falls down, the other guy helps him up. It's like, yeah, good fight. And then, but girls, it's a whole different animal. And I watched these two girls and like they were talking and then they both said something snarky to each other. And then they like fucking wildcats just, and I was like, holy shit. They just, like they were rolling on the ground, punching each other, ripping each other's hair out, biting each other. And I was like, what is happening? And it happened so fast.
I've never witnessed that, but I've seen snarky comments.
Right? Yeah.
Things saying like "girl's fat" to her, and I just look and I'm like, "You are fucking fine." Like
right?
And I'm like, I just look like somebody saw my face, and then I looked at them, and they looked at me. I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like that girl is smoking hot. Like.
Girls are brutal too, man. Like,
and so that's in there too. But obviously, this book isn't brutal to that.
Right, yeah, it's not that brutal, but
there's truth in the book. Is where we're going with this. In which that there's something that I feel like, and this is something that's so interesting, is that you really hit a truth and you hit a point where everybody knows that point. Whether we're going all the way down to the bottom of the floor of that point,
right?
Going just a little under the surface, and everybody knows it, and it really creates a very interesting reading experience. And I would imagine it was super fun to write as well because you're invoking emotion, and you can evoke a lot of emotion depending on the reader. And
oh yeah, it's definitely that's a lot of this book I love because of how personal I made the characters. Like it's all based off of stuff that I've actually dealt with, and I know that people have dealt with. Like you mentioned, you had the Katie friend. I'm sure you had the Alicia friend. You had probably the Ellipsis friend. And like it's just, I was kind of going for a lot of heartfelt content, mostly for this book. That like things that people can be like, hey, I've dealt with this at school. I've dealt with, I remember dealing with this, and that's kind of what I was shooting for. Is I kind of want, I hope that no one dealt with being abducted by a necromancer cult and
that was yesterday.
All that other stuff.
Kidding aside. Why do you think I don't interview on Mondays?
Right.
but all things kidding aside here, obviously that's something that's really well done. And then also what I like, and I know you're the writer and you're the creator of it, is that it's also the style of the art in this book is awesome, where it's got very much a Scott Pilgrim feel to it.
Oh yeah. I was definitely shooting for something that was. So I was really torn between.
Just to give an idea, it's up on the screen, and I'm not showing parts of the book for a reason, because I want people to actually read it, because I don't want to ruin too much of it. The first 7 pages, as you said, are up there on Kickstarter, but definitely Scott Pilgrim feel.
Definitely. Like I was trying to shoot for I was so torn between like a Western or a manga style, and I was like, wait, why can't I have both? And so I kind of started looking around. One of my other friends, she did the original designs for the book, and she has a Scott Pilgrim refill, but she got really booked up with work and couldn't work on the book anymore. But I found the artist Tim Sparvero, and he, like, his style is just so good, and he was just so interested in doing the book. And I was like, please, man. I love your style. You should come do a test page. And he did it, and I was like, man, this is exactly what I need. Are you open? He's like, yeah, man. And so I just paid him to do the book.
So, and even this style, because obviously I'm a manga reader. I love American comics. When I get the chance, I like to read. I'm a huge anime weeboo, where I watch as much anime as I can. I'm a big Gundam fan, so I go to Mecha Anime, and then I'm watching Princess Pirate or Pirate Princess on Crunchyroll. Oh my god, what a great series that is!
I just started. I haven't watched for a while, but I just started Yashahime. And who is? Hold on a second. Rumiko Takahashi. She is one of my biggest influences. She does, Ranma 1.5, Inuyasha, and then she just came out with Yashahime, and like she is one of my favorite writers, next to like Junji Ito and a few other guys, but.
So to the reason why I bring all this up, and obviously you're an anime fan, I'm an anime fan, is that I view, Brian Lee is the name slipping me who does Scott Pilgrim. I'm sure everybody knows who I'm talking about, and the name is slipping. But I don't view that as manga. I view that as very much American inspired, but Western meets Eastern, but like 60% American, 40% Japanese manga style, and it's a very unique style where it's definitely more comics. But what is that like? Because your book definitely, it works really well with your book. Like certain books, it would just be really bad with, and it's a very cool style when it works. But it's also the story where your writing works with this style, very much like Snot Girl. Like that writing works. And so, what is that like to actually know the style that works and have that anime vibe? Because this is very much an anime feel type comic.
Right. Yeah, it's nice. Like I never thought that I would be writing something that was manga or anime influenced, and this is definitely something different from what I usually do. This is completely different. Like my first series, I have it with me, but Reclaiming Godhood is very Western, very, very, I forgot the term they call for it, but very like, muscular dudes, high power fantasy, as I believe is what they call. Is, big muscular dudes fighting guys, and to know that I like nailed that, I feel that I did a good job on something that is completely unrelated and completely just the opposite. I am very proud. Like I love this book, and I feel that the story and the art mesh well together. And like you said, that is something that's very hard to do. It's like looking for artists while writing books is so hard, because like you comb through so many portfolios, and like when I found Tim, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this has to be it. Like this is the style I want.
And even to talk about that, because obviously I'm always looking for artists, and I'm always looking for writers, and I hit up a bunch of wrestlers, I hit up a bunch of, voice actors, and cosplayers, and in a given year, I shoot anywhere from 300 to 600 messages, if not more, and emails out. And sometimes I get really lucky. I'm fortunate enough that I've been doing this for 8 years that I know how to name drop with certain people, and they say yes immediately to me. And they say no to other people, and people ask me how I do it. But even finding people and finding the next superstars, it's something that I actually struggle with, because it is very hard to figure out who's going to become big and where to even go. And so what is that like for you? Because obviously going through people on ArtStation or going into Facebook groups and also knowing people's track record, and also there's people who are really good, but guess what? They get signed to IDW, they get signed to DC, they're working for Zen,
Right.
they're working for Dark Horse, they're working for Dynamite, or they get signed on a better indie project that's paying them 4 times as much with work for the next 6 years. And you don't want to take an artist away from making real money.
Yeah, like I really try to avoid that too, because like I know that there's a lot of artists that I would love to work with, but I know they're also crazy busy with projects that are paying better and they're doing way better than than I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I'm glad that they're getting work and they're doing great, but it's nice to find somebody that's just like, hey, I can work on this, and that's not like.
And also be committed,
right?
Because Tim, right? It's Tim, right?
Yeah, Tim Sparvero. He put a lot of blood and sweat into this book. He penciled it, he inked it, he lettered it. This book is edited by 2 people. The initial script was edited by Katrina Rowitz, and then Chucky P.
Yeah, we don't talk about Chuck.
Yeah, we
can't talk about Chuck.
No, but he
no, we're not talking about Chuck.
he came in and did proofreadings just as a favor. He's like, hey man, I read over your book. He's like, there's a lot of proof errors. I was like, you mind if I go through and just kind of fix it? And it probably happened in translation for it getting lettered, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, if you want to, I greatly appreciate that, and he went through and he did the proofs, and Tim was kind enough to be like, I was like, hey Tim, do you mind fixing the proofs? And he was the proof editing. He's like, and I was kind of like, I was expecting oh man, are you serious? Because like I've dealt with artists like that before. It's like, you want me to fix this? Oh, that's stupid, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry. But he was just like, he's like, yeah, let me make this book the best it can be. And so he went through and he fixed everything. And like, he went and redid all the lettering for like, oh my God, it was like a good third of the book. And he's great. Like Dave Lentz did the logo,
Yeah.
And Tim made the back cover using the logo. And he went through and he even slapped the logo on all the other covers for me. And Tim is just great. He put a lot of work into this book, and he helped out so much. Like he made the credits page too, and like the credit page actually looks really fucking cool. Like, and he's awesome. Tim is great, and I'm glad that he was able to commit to this project, and he's just wonderful. Like there's nothing I will ever say bad about him.
And so even to talk about this, because one of the things that's happening with artists, and obviously I'm not a comic creator at the moment. I've never run a Kickstarter. I may or may not be running one in November, but that's a different discussion for a different show completely. But one of the things is that you get an artist for issue 1, and then that issue does well, and then they're obviously tearing up. And then, they get a call from a place like DC or a place like Dynamite or Dark Horse, as I was sort of stating. And then, now they're being offered a serious contract. And obviously, how do you find people who say, hey, look, I'm going to finish these 2 books, even if it kills me, I'm going to figure out I'm going to fit you in, because that's a big deal, especially because this is, I think, mini series of 3 issues, right?
Mm-hmm. This is only going to be a 3 issue,
so it's not a 30-issue project, which helps tremendously.
But yeah, so Tim, he's already dedicated. He's like, hey, I will do all 3 of these books if we nail these Kickstarters. He's pumping it out, and he's even offered his art services as one of the tiers, and this is rare, like it's hard to find an artist that is like, I'm going to dedicate myself to these books. Like I've dealt with Reclaiming Godhood. I dealt with my colorist when I did issue 3. He colored a third of the book and then ghosted me.
Right. I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah, and
I didn't know about Reclaiming Godhood, but about that problem that happens.
Yeah, but it happens, and it sucks because like at that point, like he had already put me behind like 6 months on the Kickstarter, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to shell out and hire a new colorist. And this is one of the reasons I will not ever do get funds to make a full comic book again, is because I don't want to run into books falling behind. And I understand that people have to do it, and I have nothing against them. But personally, I don't want to deal with that again. Like, I had to refund a good chunk of people their Kickstarter money because they got to the point where it was like, hey, we're sick of waiting. Can we have our refund? And I'm like, and I'm not going to be the guy that's like, no, you can't have a refund. You know, I'm going to be like, I told them, I was like, I understand. Here's your money back. I was like, can you leave me your email so I can send you a free PDF at least? You know, just to show you that I'm sorry that this is taking so long. And so they did, and I sent them free PDF books just so that they knew that, you know, I was still serious about it and it wasn't my fault. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you know Chris Mad.
I don't.
Oh, you probably know his covers. He does like a lot of really good covers for indie books. He did one for Belial, but his daughter just got into coloring, and he hooked me up with her, and he was like, hey, my daughter's looking for work. And I had her do a sample page, and I was like, when can you start? Please. Please.
So I'm actually super curious because obviously Ghosting the Curse and Ghosting the Curse with art. I had a friend, Ben, who just did Frontier, Frontier Forever. And he was just on, and we spoke about it, and it was pretty public in a group, so I don't think he's going to mind too much me talking about it, where he basically fired an artist, and the artist got really pissed when he hired a different artist. And that artist was like maybe like 2 months behind, and the artist was sort of ghosting. And when the artist got pissed and found out that he was fired, he was really angry. And so obviously, how do you handle that? Because it's a problem. I think it's happening a lot less. Just because I think a lot more people are speaking out about it, and I think thing gets around. And if you want a career doing this, if you ghost people, you're not going to get hired because everybody speaks to everybody. Obviously, if I'm to produce a comic, I know no colorist or anything like that, but it's not that hard to find somebody at this point. And when I'll hit Chuck up, I'll hit you up, I'll hit Travis up. You know, I could Google in just groups, or I could throw out a Facebook thing in my own group, and I'm sure I could find
Fiverr too.
That too, you know, but it's the idea that what was that like, and how do you handle it? Because it's becoming a problem, and people are dealing with it problems.
There's no way you can really handle it, especially if they ghost you. But you do have to get to that point, you know, where it's like, okay, they put me behind. I'm gonna have to, you know, take matters into my own hands, and it's like with I feel that if the artist is not properly communicating...
Sorry to interrupt. I'm curious. What is a week behind, or is it a month?
So I think something that becomes behind is someone who's like, if they stop communicating with you, like if they don't let you know, it's like, hey, this is going on and this is why I'm behind.
Hey, I have COVID. I'm sorry. I'm going to be out for a week.
Yeah, you know, and then it's like, okay, we can manage that. But if you don't let anyone know what's going on, you can't plan for it. And it's like if this colorist, like if he was dealing with personal problems, he should have been like, hey, I can't finish the book. Here's the money back for the pages I didn't finish. Please use it to hire another colorist. Like, I feel that should be a thing. You know, that should totally be like the common courtesy to at least be like, I can't finish the book. I'm sorry. Or at least being in constant communication, because that's the biggest thing, and I'm sure a lot of creators will agree. It's like the communication is what's important.
Oh, absolutely. If somebody had to cancel for Wednesday, I found a replacement. It shot me a message yesterday. Not a lot of time to find a replacement. I was lucky that I had somebody cancel on me and had to reschedule on Sunday. I asked him if we could do a Wednesday, and he filled that person's spot. I got super lucky. But I did meet my 4, and now I got a 5th one in there for this week, which was super helpful. Just accidentally, it happened.
Mhm.
And things fell into place. But at least he communicated so that come 9 o'clock on Wednesday, I wouldn't be sitting twiddling my thumbs
Right.
waiting to show up. So I at least appreciate communication on my end, even if it's a cancel, I don't have a recourse. Even if you give me 12 hours ahead of time, at least now I know that I'm not going to be sitting around for 12 hours for the next hour and a half for you to show up.
Right. Yeah. But communication is the biggest thing. Like, you should have, if someone has paid you, has paid you X amount of money to, complete a project, and you can't complete it, you should at least communicate and refund the person. And I feel like if you just ghost somebody, that's dirty. Like, it's
not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's like I said, like this book, not this book, but my 3rd issue of this series, it put me in such a huge bind that I was like, and like the weird thing is that I hired this guy to color the first issue so this originally was in black and white. This guy did this whole first issue for me, and I didn't have a problem. He did it, and then like when this issue came around, he just only did like a third of it and then disappeared. And which was weird because like this guy, I had worked with him before, and I just didn't understand it. Like.
And I mean, the reason why I'm asking all this is because it is becoming a lot more. I don't know if I'm still around here. I don't know if I could be heard. Can I be heard? Okay, I'm back. The reason why I'm asking all this is because it is becoming way more public. And I'm super curious because I handle my issues differently.
Right.
Every once in a while, I go hard and I go public. And I haven't gone public in a long time. And even with certain people, I haven't gone public when I should have, and I have issues with certain people in the comic realm. There's one in particular, Chuck knows exactly who it is, and that person's blocked because that person is disrespectful to me. But I didn't go public with it because I just don't think I'm a professional,
Right.
And I think that's what people don't understand. Because I don't come from indie. And that's I come from the mainstream side of things where I was doing a lot of mainstream people. And on my other show, it was almost exclusive mainstream. So I was doing people like Danny O'Neill and Paul Levitz and Chuck Dixon and Dr. Falco. And so I've come into indie, and I'm not out of mainstream either. I just understand that I'm in both. And it works. I had David Booher, who kicked off the entire sponsorship tour. That's a mainstream comic writer. That's not a indie comic writer. Canto is an indie book by definition. It's got an indie vibe, but it's mainstream. It's an awesome book. And so the point I'm trying to make is that I understand how to be a professional. And I think what's happening, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, and we're getting controversial, I promise, is that I think that there's now an issue where you have to publicly call people out to some degree. You have to publicly state certain things, because if you're ghosting, somebody runs away and you pay them a good amount of money for art or whatnot, other people need to know it so they avoid that person, because it's like giving a drunk a drink.
Right.
If you don't call it out and stop it and publicly stop it, versus because you can't privately stop somebody ghosting you and taking. If you pay somebody $1,000 for art and they ran away with your money, you need to let everybody know this is a bad person. And the only way to do that is publicly, and it's kind of like stopping and taking a beer out of somebody who's a drunk and not letting them in the liquor store to stop their behavior. Whether that's legal or not is not the question anymore. It's the idea that you got to take, drastic positions to end behaviors that are bad. So I'm curious where you think on that, because it's a super complicated issue.
So, yeah, no, it's definitely something. I never called out this guy. And at this point right now, it wouldn't be worth it, because this was like 3 years ago, and
But
There'd be no point.
You get where I'm going with this because it's
but you should definitely call out people. Like if I've called out people before, like there was a guy I paid to do a cover, and there were several guys that paid him to do a cover, and he just vanished. Luckily, I was able to get my money back. That's the great thing about PayPal. Always pay for goods and services. Never send money as a friend because then you can't get it back. Always find a way to protect yourself. Like I even have written out small freelancer contracts that I have people sign, and it's like even if they try to run off with the money, like you can take it to court, I guess, but you can also use it as a documentation for PayPal. If you pay with PayPal and they're like, hey, you didn't deliver, we're going to take the money back. And PayPal's like, I've never had a bad experience with PayPal. And I usually prefer to do PayPal because like I got screwed over with Western Union because there's no way you can get your money back. And
yeah. Hopefully my sponsor won't take their money back if they don't like the results. Hopefully, I will cry, and it will be bad. I don't think Mixum's really good, guys. They're good. They're following me on Instagram. I send them updates. They pay me up front, and they haven't asked me to do anything. And I think they trust me enough because I'm pretty accessible. It would if I disappear, there's something bigger in which that. Between my website, between my podcast,
right.
my Facebook page that I've put time, effort, and money into, my Instagram, my YouTube. I mean, I legitimately gave them all of my social media. It's pretty easy to find me. That's why they paid me up front because it is, and I'm active. Nobody who's done almost 300 interviews disappears overnight, unless there's something bigger going on. But that's an aside. So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on, and calling out people is sometimes necessary. Unfortunately, in my circumstance, I didn't want to get into a scrap because I go hard, and I also didn't want to. There would have been friendly fire with a lot of people,
right?
If I did it the way I wanted to do it, and I'm the first person to admit it that bunch of people that and I know would have been caught in fire. And a bunch of other people probably would have been like, oh man, this is great.
Right.
Great television. But I digress. So obviously there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get into rewards. And this is also somewhat controversial, but I think it's perfectly fine, is that this comic has a lot of representation in it. And it's not just from the characters in the book. Obviously, it's LGBTQ friendly. It's also the fact that it's from writers, and obviously, you're a representation. I think of that, you know. And what is that like for you? Because I'm very torn on it, and I might be speaking out of turn. So please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn. I believe a writer's job is to write about things they know and write about things they don't know, and do their homework and research what they write, and capture and really deliver good characters. But I also think that it's very important writers who are gay and are lesbians, like Alison Bechdel, and who have tendencies, whether they're bisexual or pansexual, or if you're transgender, to also write, because you can provide a different, unique perspective. And so I'm curious how you feel about this, because obviously this comic provides a very unique perspective, given that obviously you are a part of that representation group.
Yeah, so I feel it's very important. Like we need more representation. Like I feel we need more original representation, not just.
So explain that, because I don't know what that means.
You see a lot of the big two. They're doing this now. Like they're having people come out as bi or gay or.
So I'm gonna interrupt because this might get. So Cine Grace, you know who Cine Grace is?
I do not.
Cine Grace did turned Iceman gay.
Oh, see, and there's nothing like I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that, but like I read a lot of those.
The reason why I bring Cine Grace is a gay Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very interesting position, because now when he's writing Iceman, it's from, I guess, his perspective, and he is gay himself. And now you have that embedded, and that seems like a direct representation and original, where you're now not just turning a character for the sake of turning the character gay. He wanted to run with it. And that comic, for a long time with Marvel, was very popular, and people were very, very excited about it. It did not do well in the floppies and in single issues. It did phenomenal in graphic novels, because I think people did not want to read that story
right,
month by month, which is not against Marvel. It's against the idea of how you want to read a book.
right. See, and graphic novels, they do a lot better anyways, because as I've done my research, a lot of people don't want to just buy a lot of floppies anymore. They want bigger books. They want to be able to binge read or binge watch something.
So I love Comixology, in which that I legitimately reading. I'm right now reading Grimm Fairy Tales. There's 120 issues. It's I don't even read in graphic novels. I read issue by issue, but there's 120 of them. And so I read, graphic single comic maybe takes me 10 minutes to read. I'm good. I'm good for a while. Now I'm going on a car trip, so I'm not going to be reading if you don't want me to throw up, obviously. Right. But getting back to this original representation, I find what Cynic Grace did with Iceman to be very much original, versus turning, Batgirl dating a transgender or having a transgender roommate, I think is just placating, for lack of a better word.
Right.
So I could be speaking out of turn. I'm the first.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing I heard right now is it why can't I remember his name? Is it Robin or Nightwing coming out as bi?
Robin. Nightwing is banging Starfire.
Okay.
If you're banging Starfire, I'm sorry.
Right.
You're straight as an
So that's the biggest thing right now. I remember when Iceman first became gay, and I read some of a lot of the. So the stuff I'm referring to is Children of the Atom, and what was it? The New Warriors, where it was so forced and so misrepresenting, the representation that people wanted. I remember talking to a lot of the people, and they're like, yeah, we want representation, but this is not. They're not doing it right. They're forcing it, and but I'll have to read Iceman now, because I didn't realize that they actually got the perspective from a gay Muslim that wrote the book, and
very interesting.
And so because if I remember right, the New Warriors and Children of the Atom were written by a bunch of straight white guys, which I think is what the problem was, is that they are not having the right representatives writing the books.
So do you think it's the right representatives, or do you think it's even just doing research?
So doing research is also a huge thing if you properly do it. You should always do your research.
I'm going to push back a little bit, and I'm curious your opinion. So I am straight, and I don't think I'm bi. Obviously, I'm attracted to women. That's what I'm into. But I've done a lot of research on gay comic creators, and I've done a lot of firsthand research. So I've interviewed Howard Cruz before he passed away, rest in peace. And we had a one-on-one interview, and we spoke a little bit more. And I've done stuff, and I've done a lot of deep diving into Alison Bechdel, and I've done research into Joe Phillips, and I've read a lot of that stuff. And I've also had an interview with Trina Robbins, who was very instrumental, and I've gone down and I've had conversations with Dennis Kitchen. And so when I do that panel, I'm very, very knowledgeable on the topic, and we go through the history, we go through how somebody got there, and what was gay comics looking like, and what was, all these women comics that obviously were playing to women, and obviously were presenting. And Trina did, I think, the first open lesbian comic, and then Alison Bechdel did Dykes to Watch Out For, and obviously Joe Phillips did, Boys, and I'm slipping it, and he did an advertisement for Budweiser aimed at gay people, and they hired him, and it was a local ad that became a regional ad that became a national ad. And so I think that's a big problem, is that if you're going to have somebody who is not gay writing your comic. They need to know the history and they need to do homework on it. And so I'm curious what you think of that, because obviously
That's definitely. I feel that as a writer, that's your job. Like, if you are delving into something you don't know anything about, you should do the research and you should make sure.
hours. I mean,
Yeah,
like 50,
spend
60
hours if you have to. Because like I'm not like the main characters in this book are gay. I'm not gay. I'm bi. So you have to like reach in and talk. Like I actually talk to a lot of my gay friends, like pure gay friends, not just bi or pan. And I kind of like, I kind of want to know like what it's like for them, because growing up in high school, being bi wasn't that big of a thing because you could still, date girls and people like it was during a time where like if you were dating within your same sex, you would still get a lot of flack for, and so like the bi kids could hide it a bit better. And like I don't mean to say that as like a cop out or anything, but growing up in a town with a bunch of rednecks that would jump and beat the shit out of you for being gay or bi, or it's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's so, and so like, I talked to a lot of my gay friends that, I went to school with, and, they would tell me about like, the fear factor of like dealing with that all the way, and it's like, holy shit. Like, you don't actually know how some people have it until you actually like talk to people.
So the reason why I bring up my point is that I've had, when I do that panel, I've had a panel that in the room wanted to kill me. And then I've had people when I said, hey, Target is they do June just to make you all complacent. And I think it's ridiculous. And I attacked Target, and I got a standing ovation for attacking Target for Pride Month in Washington, D.C., of all places, because I made a really compelling argument of saying, people in that room were like, wow, somebody actually just said what probably everybody was thinking, that making a rainbow SpongeBob, thinking that is what is going to solve issues in the gay community and people who are gay legitimately getting murdered.
Right.
Rainbow SpongeBob's fun. Don't get me wrong, guys, but that doesn't solve anything. A pride flag that Target puts out doesn't solve anything. And also, I gave a lecture, and then the room gave me a standing ovation. And my point is that obviously I can only do so much, and I can do research, I can present facts, I can present things, and I can go down into the weeds of all this stuff. But obviously, I don't know what it's like growing up gay. I don't know what it's like growing up bi. So I think, as a writer, I can nail certain traits really well. And I think I can deliver something really, really well and then create something. But look, I think if you're a writer and you can hit 90% of something, I think that's impressive. And I think it requires work. And that's something that I think is very important about your book. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because that representation matters. Because it's that other 10% that I can't hit. If I'm lucky, I'll hit it if I was to write your book. But that's tricky.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like a lot of it is just, like you said, it's just doing your research. And even if you don't hit the 10%, you can always bring in an outer perspective to get that 10%. Like you can talk to your friends and be like talk to your gay friends and your bi friends, your pan friends, and be like, what am I doing wrong? Or what can I do better? And as long as they're not like too hypercritical,
That's the other thing too, is that it's also the people, because I run into two types of people across the board. Some people just want to shoot you down everything you're doing.
Oh, so definitely.
I have a physical disability. So my position on it is that if somebody's writing a disability comic, I'm not going to shoot you down if you get it wrong. I'm just going to tell you, say, hey, this is how my life works. Come hang out with me for a day. You'll see how things work. You're like, oh, that makes sense. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, you hit 80% of it. That's good enough for me. At a certain point, I can say, okay, you missed 20%, but if Marvel and DC are only hitting 50% and you hit 80, I mean, I'll take the 80 and I'll run with it. And I know sometimes people don't want to hear that answer, but at certain points, sometimes, if you get 30% closer to the goal, the next time somebody writes something, they're going to get even further to that goal. And then at some point, everybody's going to get it. But, that's how I view things at the very least. So, I mean, but I do think representation is very important because obviously, everybody views things differently, and I don't have the same lived experiences as you.
Right. And you're right. It's. I would rather choose the 80% of the 80% of somebody who's hitting it better than the 50 that Marvel and DC are.
And also, this doesn't feel forced in your book either. And that's the thing when you go and you make, if they made Bruce Wayne gay or even the Robin stuff being bi, I find that it's being forced. And I find that they're forcing it. I think some good stuff is coming out of it. I haven't read it, but I just heard. But I also think that they're forcing,
They are, and like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you heard of Children of the Atom or the New Warriors with Snowflake and Safe Space.
I'm so out of the loop a little bit.
So this I don't follow the big two a lot, but I started following these two projects in particular because it was like we're gonna bring in a bunch of representation, and I was like of LGBTQ, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool, and then like I watched the video and I was like, what is going on? And then like I started reading the comments and everyone's like, I'm gay, and it's like this is not the representation I want. So, this is so like
I'll ask you a question.
So, yeah.
Have you read Earth 2? New 52 Earth?
I do not think so.
So it's almost alternative. Earth 2 is obviously the second Earth, and it's more of a golden age vibe where they're so I forget, you have Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Alan Scott is gay. And what you have is that the Justice League is sort of in its infancy, and you have characters that are not your traditional Justice League characters, and you have like Dr. Fate, and you have more Jay Garlick as the Flash, and so you have a very different Earth. And I found him to be a character that was more represented. And I found it to be, not, and it's probably not up to the standard it should be, but I found it to be a lot better than what, like, making, having what is it, Barbara Gordon, who's Batgirl, having her have a transgender, roommate. Like, it didn't feel forced. It just felt the character was gay, and he's a superhero who loses his husband. And that prompts him to be a superhero, but there's nothing tremendous about his relationship beyond that. And it's known that he's gay, but it didn't feel forced. It just was run that okay, it's just the norm. And it was a very interesting comic because him being gay was a secondary thing to him being a Green Lantern.
See, like, and that's how it should be. Is like, did you ever watch Mitchell's versus the Machines?
No, I haven't. I'm so out of touch.
Oh my gosh! So they tackle it the same way. It's like like representation should be important, but it shouldn't be the main focus of the story. And people may disagree with me for that, but like initially you're there for the story. It's not just about like, it shouldn't just be about I'm gay, so I should be or I'm bi or I'm pan, and that's all this book should be about, because then it becomes a very two-dimensional kind of thing. But like Mitchell's and the Machines, the main character is gay, and it's like, and it's just kind of like they naturalize it. And it's just like this thing where it's like she, she's like, yeah, I am gay, like it, and it's like just such a minor thing, but you pick up that she's gay, and it's like, oh, and it's like, this is how it should be done. Like it's so better, well done.
I have another good example. Do you know who Darren Young is by any chance?
No, I do not.
Darren Young was the first openly gay WWE superstar. So he was asked by TMZ, do you think a gay superstar in LAX could make it in the WWE? He said, I don't see why not. I'm gay. And they were completely like dumbfounded. And he just said it right off the top of his thing. Some people in the locker room knew, but like Randy Orton was talking about it. He's like, I didn't know. Titus O'Neil knew, but like he came out and then he was like, after he went back to his hotel room, it's like he calls a friend of his and then he's like, yo, you got to call Stephanie McMahon because she's like a brand chief ambassador and you got to let them know what just happened. It was going to air in like 30 minutes. And then he was like, I'm Ellen, but nothing changed in the career. It was just
that's how it should be, like it's
great. It was beyond important. And then it was just one of those things that was like, okay, nothing's changed. Awesome. This is cool. Great. He's a wrestler, and a bunch of wrestlers basically, like Big Show said, yeah, so he's gay. That doesn't mean that if he doesn't fuck up in the ring, that I'm not gonna yell at him. If he fucks in the ring, I'm gonna yell at him regardless. This has nothing to do. If he's unsafe in the ring, I'm gonna tell him he's unsafe in the ring. There you go. So I mean, and the reason why I bring this up is that obviously we're heading into controversial territory, and your and my career is over now. So clearly,
well, yeah.
But I do think this is important because I haven't had somebody who I've had was able to have this conversation with. I think it is a very, very important conversation to have. And I think that, some people are going to agree with me and you, and some people are going to disagree. But,
for sure.
You can't make everybody happy. So having said that, I obviously want to get back into some fun stuff here. And let's talk about the rewards. And so obviously there's digital. And then there's the physical copies. And so we're going to talk about it. I think there's 4, covers, right?
Yeah. So like I said, I have them. If you guys there's that's the main base cover by Alia Alter. She nailed it. And the colors are by DC Alonso. The next cover.
Yeah. You're just going to tell me what to put up.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell. So this cover is done by Damian Aviles. And this is actually an Immortal Hulk homage cover. Like there's a, and
I know this cover. I know this cover. I have this cover.
Yeah, so exactly, that's good. He just fucking nailed it. I loved, and he works in like colored pencils and stuff. So like, you have like that natural like watercolor colored pencil feel for this piece, and it's fucking beautiful.
And so what's cool about this cover is obviously you're paying tribute to something. You get the metal in there, you get the guitar, you're in a graveyard scene. It's got very much a heavy metal type feel to it. It's got that, sort of death feel to it as well. And it's really just nice, and it's a fun cover. And also I like the fact that, the girl with the guitar looks more punk rockish and heavy metal-ish, and then the girl next to her looks a lot more innocent, and it creates a very, very cool thing. And then obviously just the demon thing looks awesome in the moon, and it's really just a focal point, and it's a nice touch.
All right, and then the next cover. So yeah, this is an homage to one of my biggest horror inspirations, Sam Raimi and the Evil Dead. My favorite horror series, Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, Ash vs. the Evil Dead. It's all just, and you can tell because of the severed hand bits, so, definitely a lot of Sam Raimi influence.
It's also really cool that covering
her climbing out of the pile of hands. And
so this is an awesome cover. And then there's obviously this cover too, and we mentioned it slightly, but really cool cover.
Yeah, so this is Dio was my favorite metal composer growing up, and he died a while ago, and I was, it still hurts, but I wanted to pay homage to him because he influenced me so much, and his music is just such a big part of my life that there's no way I'm not gonna, pay homage to my favorite metal composer.
And so obviously I just love this because it's awesome, and it's also really cool just to pay art tribute to
Mhm.
people and also give this. And so and I forget the tiers, and I probably should have wrote it down, but
So
what what what,
luckily,
what,
so a
what's the
lot of them are
price?
very punny. I like to throw in puns a lot into stuff, as
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw in the first book.
Yeah. So
But
well, what I'm curious about is that obviously when you have, four covers, you know, how does it work? Because do they have different prices? Because I forget, just so people know. Because
no, they do not. So the way I'm doing it is that instead of like separating the covers into their own separate tiers, I'm just gonna when I send out the surveys, I'm gonna be like, "What cover do you want?" And then I'm just gonna print them out that way. So that
I was just curious because people do different things differently.
right. And
Prices.
then like I did put add-ons, so like if you do want all covers, you can go in and buy, Damien of Isles' Kickstarter exclusive or the Bethany Turlins, every you can buy the separate ones if you want to, and as an add-on. And but like as if we're gonna go down pledges, so I have the hands-free book, which is the
Yeah.
PDF digital copy.
You have stickers and a physical. You
Yeah,
have
there's
mini
and
stickers.
so just so you guys know, I did order everything ahead of time. So I have all of the rewards already here. Other than the pins and the guitar picks, which are on their ways. And but like the prints and the mini print and the stickers are here along with, the proofs of the books. The picks, unfortunately, they're still on their way. And the first 100 physical backers will get a severed guitar pick, just for backing the book.
And so obviously there's a lot of stuff out there, and then
Mhm.
you also have a retailer's perk, which obviously I'm getting into that. I actually just got my first retail perk from somebody on Kickstarter, so I'm going to be listing that and see how that goes. Because if I sell through on eBay, and that's a good thing within a month and a half or 2 months, obviously I'm going to be picking up a bunch of other people's things. So it's a test for me in a lot of ways, but I think it's very important to offer retails because getting books into indie comic shops, getting indie
Right.
comic the comic shops is very difficult.
Definitely, yeah, because a lot of shops, a lot of indie creators know this. They do co-signing, which is because we can't afford to do the full like diamond price cutting, which is like I think diamond charges a lot less, for shops to stock books, and it's hard to find the balance because like we can't afford to like we can afford to give a good discount, but we
So,
can't
so, so
afford.
I'll go into this because
Mhm.
I'm entering this space right now. So I'm an eBay store. So I need a 50% discount. I just do
Mhm.
because I have expenses. eBay takes 13%. And
Right.
also I am going to be marketing it. And now I also target certain things because I sell a lot of Zenoscope books.
Mhm.
So Travis just shipped me some Cthulhu Invades Wonderland books. That pairs nicely with my Zenoscope books. So one of the things is that I have to be very selective because I know my
Mhm.
audience really well.
Mhm.
I know that somebody who's interested in an exclusive from Zenoscope and they like Wonderland as a thing, they're gonna say, "Oh, Cthulhu's cool, Wonderland's cool. What's this?" And they might shoot me a DM on eBay and say, "Hey,
Right.
man, my friend Travis did this. Here's an interview I did with Travis talking about it. Let me know if you're interested." So I, unfortunately, because I'm an eBay store, I have to be extremely selective. Now,
Right.
I'll give you a great thing, and this is such a good teachable lesson. If somebody sells heavy metal, comics and magazines on eBay, that's your ideal customer because this book is definitely pairs nicely with it. And so now somebody who's into that, because obviously this is dealing with heavy metal, this is dealing with things like that, or somebody who sells LBGTQ friendly comics, this is perfect for an eBay store or a store that specializes in that. And I think
Right.
this is a mistake a lot of comic people on Kickstarter make. When you're looking for an indie shop to be in, you got to do your homework and you got to call them up. I got
Mhm.
my sponsor because I called them up, or I said, "Hey, call me." And we dealt with it on a phone call. I get it.
Right.
It's terrifying to do that. But pick up a phone and call your comic shop. If you know they specialize in certain things, you're going to want to go and talk to them. I specialize in Zenescope books in things like, Big Dog Inc. Okay, those things go together, and that's what my audience wants. So when I'm selling Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, that fits right into the genre. And also, legitimately, this project that I started is 12 hours old. So I'm speaking from the very beginning of this thing, and I think it's very important. But I also think that it's complicated because you need to make money, and it comes an issue is that, are you going to make $5 on the deal and profit when you're selling? Obviously, you're making a lot more on Kickstarter, but you also just want to get your books into a shop. It's tricky. It's tricky. I don't know how much Travis is making on me on that retail thing versus the idea of saying, hey, I just want somebody to pick up 8 of my books so that he sells them, and then he's going to come back in 4 months from now when I have my next project. So it's tricky.
Yeah. So like I said, it's hard to give like the 50%, but I did my best for my retails perk. Like I think that it's only $5 more than like the 50% because I want shops to want to buy the perk without them, investing so much money into it that they're not going to, and they end up not selling the books, or I want to at least make it fair enough for like both parties.
Or one of the mistakes I have with retail is that I'm obviously a podcast. So if a lot of shops have live sales, a lot of shops might do interviews, you can offer more than just your books. You could offer saying, hey, I'll just do a 15-minute, spot for you. And we could put it up on your Facebook wall if they're interested, because now they're getting social media. And so now there's a lot of stuff on that realm that I think is important. But obviously, that's a different discussion for a different day. It's getting creative on how to restructure value. And I love value. And value could be a million things. It's just a matter of what you want to sell to somebody. So obviously, but that's my thing. And then also, I know you have some original art as well that's up with this, unless that's all gone at this point.
No, not yet. I think that so as we're going down, we have the hands-free tier, which is the PDF book, the hands-on physical book, which comes with the physical copy and the PDF, Sticky Fingers, which comes with, the both books and the stickers, Grave Arbor Special, which is the, first 25 people that get it. And then we have the 3-bit phalanges, which is, the books and the enamel pin. Oh, no, the print. That's the print. Sorry, the print. And then Fred Got Fingers, which is the PDF and the physical book and the enamel pin. And then I have my retailer's perk, which is the Join a Necromancer Cult. And then I have the Want 'em All, which comes with the PDF book, the 3 different covers, the 3 exclusive Kickstarters covers, and then the stickers, the pin, and the print. And then the Talented Phalanges is the blank cover, which the interior artist is going to sketch on. We have one of those sold. And then there's Severed Bits, which is the original penciled pages from the book.
So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of choice.
There's a lot of fun stuff.
And the books are printed, which is
books are printed. Rewards are almost here. Like if we get funded, by the time I order books, which would be like 2 to 3 weeks, as soon as they hit the door, they're getting packaged and shipped.
and so I think that's important too, where this is a very quick turnaround time, where we're not waiting 3-4 months. You're going to be banging it out relatively quickly, and that's important as well. So obviously there's a lot going on, and I don't want to keep you here all night, but I got one more question before I give you a chance to self-promote here.
All right.
And I'm super curious because obviously, and actually I got 2 more questions because it's going to lead in. So what part of the country are you located in?
I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so Washington State.
So you're West Coast. I'm
Mhm.
obviously on the East Coast. The reason why I asked this is that you might know what I'm about to ask. If you saw my last interview, you know what I'm going to ask. I asked this question, and I've been asking it so many times, is that obviously, in March and all the way up, we were doing better and sort of in the summer with COVID. And where do you think we're heading with cons and all that stuff? And where do you think cons are going to adapt and for the next few months and even going forward? Because obviously COVID is very, very complicated and it affects conventions differently and it
Oh,
affects
for
any
sure.
live event. So I'm curious how you feel about it and what it looks like on the West Coast because it's
So
complicated.
what I've noticed is that like a lot of the cons are even now. It seems like they're going to have a lot more restrictions. They're going to be. Some of them have been canceled already. But I've been seeing a lot of things like, even though like cons have not been surfacing as much, because like over here on the West Coast, we have two of the biggest cons. Like, what the two biggest cons over here, are Emerald City and SakuraCon, which is the big anime convention they have every year. And so I feel that even though hopefully cons will come back as soon as all this is over and we get the COVID stuff under control. Hopefully they will be coming back. But I've also noticed that like even though cons have been dying, comic creators have still been able to sell their books on Kickstarter. And a lot of the reason is because like people still want entertainment, people still want to read, and I feel that even though cons may be dwindling down a bit more, is that we will still be able to hit our target. Like we will still be able to promote our books through Kickstarters or through Comixologies, and even like a lot of the online cons that are becoming a bigger thing seem to be taking more root than a lot of the physical cons.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't think I might never ever go back to a convention. Because I do a lot of networking online. I mean, more people online. I mean, I speak to people all over the world, and I'm not a
Right.
comic creator. And I think I could speak in and network in and communicate with more people through Facebook than I've ever been able to. And I don't miss the interaction. I mean, if you're a fan of mine on as a podcaster, you could shoot me a DM on Twitter, and we could talk. And if I really had a lot of fans, if I had 10,000 fans and they were paying me $5 a month, we would all hop on a Zoom call, and I could host like 100 people on a Zoom call, and we could all talk. So,
Right? Yeah, that'd be yeah.
and so I just view this very differently, and maybe it's because I'm part of the great digitalization pivot, but I am way more influential than I've ever been in my life, and I didn't have much of an audience starting, and I had a small audience in 2020. And when I went live and I started doing this, I mean, I did 90 my first year. I'm hitting 185, it looks like, this year. And I know way more people from all over the world. You're in Washington. I'm in Connecticut. This wouldn't have been possible 20 months ago. I mean, it
Right.
was possible from a technology. It would have been not been possible that it would have been on the table from us doing it. And so I think it's a real, change. And I think conventions and meeting fans is great, but I think there's a shift of the guard. And I mean that's how I view it. I could be wrong, but I am clearly part of the great digitalization pivot, and I am against cons because I think there's a million more ways I could interact with my fans right now
Right.
and than I could ever do at a con, at a table, or on a panel. And I've done it, and I did it for 10 years, and I have gotten more viewership in the last year than I've ever had in my life. And it is unbelievable. And I
Right.
have influence. And so that's how I feel. But again, I'm not a comic creator. So I'm speaking from a digital product person who does digital things of media with comics, is what I talk about.
Yeah, no, like I said, like I know that a lot of people were afraid that cons were gonna die, but they've been doing really good since since cons have not been a thing, people are smashing Kickstarter goals. I think Kickstarter actually last year in comics made more than it has in a long time. So I don't think the medium's gonna die. I don't think cons are gonna cons not being a thing are gonna kill anything.
I think the medium is evolving. Where I think the middleman and the gatekeeping is over. And I think a lot of people don't understand that comics have always evolved. I think people thought that cons were a distribution fan meeting system. And I think now that's changed because guess what? I could host 9 people. We could have a private meeting. We could have a public meeting. And on Zoom, if I pay for a nice Zoom call, I legitimately can get 10,000 people into a Zoom call.
Right.
And if I wanted to pay like $1,000 or $5,000 a month, I could get every comic creator who has a Kickstarter in the last year on, and we would still have room for people. And not that I want to do that, but that can be done.
Right.
And I just think the medium is evolving. I think that you have to be part of the great digitalization pivot. So welcome, guys. Welcome to being part of the digitalization pivot. And we get to play Yahtzee with Stan from South Park.
Nice.
Profile, keep moving. But obviously, having said all that, we've been talking for a while now, and I'm enjoying this tremendously. And you just bought me 3 coffees. I saw that. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
I get to buy a Frappuccino tomorrow. No. I'm going to use it for something much more important, like drugs. That's not the point.
Awesome. Good. If you were worried about not making money with your podcast, at least you'll make your money back in the drugs.
How do you think I'm going to stay awake for the next 2?
Right.
But no. Guys, it's called a joke. I want to make that crystal clear. It's called a joke. But
crystal clear. I get it.
Hey, it's time to make America start cooking again. Just ask Heisenberg as the DEA agent. But not the point here. Great SNL cold opening. But I digress right there. I do want to give you an opportunity to self-promote because before I get kicked off and you get kicked off and both of our careers are over, we should at least get this first issue funded. So where can people find the Kickstarter? Where can people support the Kickstarter? Obviously, sharing it matters. Where can people?
Oh yeah, sharing is it's such an important thing. Like if you can't even just toss $1 at it, just share it and be like, hey everyone, I'm broke. Throw money at this. But so we're on Kickstarter. Just look up Sever. We're about 8. I want to say. Hold on. Let me do the math because. So we're about 60%. We still have 24 days, so we're doing really good, like I said. And just so you can go to just type in Sever in the search bar, or there's always the link that hopefully I can get up. And you can find me at Braidoxian Studios on Facebook or the Braidoxian on Instagram at the Braidoxian on Instagram. Looks like,
guys. So Sever won a metal-inspired horror comic. Obviously, they're at 861. They got 37 backers, 24 days. So look for that really cool image with it, and it should pop up. Pretty cool. So that's something that's important to look at. Also, I'm going to probably just add into the comments right now. So obviously it's in the comments on YouTube and on Facebook. It just popped up. So anybody who's looking right there, that's what it looks like. So obviously it's in the comments now. You could look up and click that link as well. But yes, continue. Sorry, I wanted to just let everybody know.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So you can find me at the Braidoxian. on Instagram. So, it's spelt exactly like I have it right here on the thing between Braidoxine Studios. And you can find me on Braidoxine Studios at Facebook.
And obviously, if you just type in, Braidoxine Studios on Google,
It
it'll
should
pop
be
up.
like the only thing that pops up.
So obviously, and as I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it, is that you have to support indie. And what that means is obviously you have to back Kickstarter projects because that's what gets books funded, gets books across the finish line, whether they're printed or not printed, or whether they're finished or not. That's what really helps get things across the finish line. So that's something that's super, super important to do. But even going further, you also have to share this stuff. So that means you have to share on Facebook. You have to like on Facebook. You got to share on Instagram. You got to share on your Twitter. You got to review things. Obviously when the book comes out, you should write a review and make a video review. That is super helpful. So lets other people know. Also, if you know people, maybe DM somebody, say, hey, super interested in this thing. Obviously it looks great. Also, talk to your local comic shop because you never know. They might be looking for something and it matters. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, I saw this really cool book. They got this Kickstarter. Can I show it to you really quickly on my phone? And, you never know because obviously people do things. Or better yet, if you know a comic shop, send the info to Braiden because obviously you can make a phone call. They might be interested. You could sell it and maybe,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it's important and you never know who's watching and what's going on. And also following on social media, if I already mentioned, I probably did, but I'm going to just reiterate it. That also is super helpful as well. And also what I've been saying is that you have to support indie projects beyond just Kickstarters. And I'm an indie content creator myself, and Braiden did something very cool that I want to acknowledge is that he bought me 3 coffees on Buy Me a Coffee. And that obviously I was joking that I'm going to go buy some drugs with it. Obviously, all that money actually goes back into this show. So it goes back into buying equipment or running ads or, getting email help or buying, some things that are needing or software or, sometimes, something's going on and I need some help with something, and I need a logo design or something, or I need, a banner design. All that stuff goes back into it. I don't take that money out or it goes into running Facebook ads to promote or anything of like that because things come up in a business, or a bunch of this now, even though I have a sponsor and it's covering my expenses for a little bit on my show, at some point that sponsor might renew, that sponsor might not renew, and this goes into a chest that allows this to continue. And so it does go a long way, and that $15 might not seem like a lot, but it's so helpful in so many ways. And even $5 is beyond helpful because every little dollar matters.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was going to say, even that George Washington, man, that little George Washington makes a difference.
I mean, I'll take a penny if you got a penny,
Right.
a penny because pennies add up. And I know this because I have cryptocurrency that's producing me 1 cent a day in interest. And then you'd be surprised how fast it adds up. Because 1 cent becomes 2 cent, becomes 3 cent, becomes 4 cent. And then 70 days in, I'm not producing 2 cents. I'm producing 3 cents. And you might say, oh, you're only going up a little by little by little, but it adds up. And
Right.
so obviously,
it's the long game that matters.
So I greatly appreciate that. So obviously on that note, that's Buy Me a Coffee, guys. It's up in the description, but I want people to obviously back your Kickstarter first and foremost because it's an awesome project. So on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. Well, you know what, guys? Thanks. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And it was great. If you guys can, you can't, like he said, if you can't back it, can't back the Kickstarter, share it. Share it with people that might be interested. Share it with the LGBTQ community. See if they're into it. I put a lot of heart and soul into this book, and I'm very proud of this book, and I guarantee people will love it.
Yeah, no, I'm super stoked for it because obviously I got a preview copy and it's really well done. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with this book. So I recommend obviously back it digitally or physically because I don't think you're going to be unhappy with it. And
if you even if you can just buy a digital book, that, or you can't, just share it around. Let's help get the word out.
yeah, no, I think that's a perfect place to end. So I believe that is a wrap.